Aaron Rodgers and Sam Darnold both seek revenge, while Sauce Gardner looks to win a marquee matchup against Justin Jefferson. Let's break down the key storylines in the Week 5 game between the Jets and Vikings in London today on Locked On Jets.
You are Locked On Jets, your daily New York Jets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello there, Vikings fans, and hello there, Jets fans. Welcome to Crossover Thursday here on the Locked On Network. For Jets fans, my name is Luke Braun. I do Locked On Vikings. I'm here with John Butchko. He does Locked On Jets. Welcome in, everybody, to this Crossover Thursday episode, which is brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL, all lowercase, to win $50 instantly when you play $5. John, hello, London. We're all getting up early.
Luke, it's great to be here. I mean, the Jets are. I'm not very happy with the way the Jets are playing right now, but I'm very excited to do this.
We'll get into that. Today. Well, so the thing Vikings fans want to know, way more than anything about the Jets, is how's Aaron Rodgers doing. Here's the deal: most of Vikings fans hate this guy. This runs deep. Okay, this is like a birthright feud, blood feud. That has been festering since 2008. And so if you tell me that Aaron Rodgers is playing poorly, a whole bunch of Vikings fans are going to absolutely eat that up. Can you tell us that? Can we have that?
I can't tell you he's playing poorly. I think he's playing okay. Now, he's not playing at like Aaron Rodgers level. I think, if you wanted him to be like the MVP level Aaron Rodgers, he was in Green Bay, he's not that. If you wanted him to be totally washed up, he's not that. He's 40 years old. He's coming off a serious injury. His mobility is greatly decreased. In fact, I think if you want to talk about the areas of decline for Aaron Rodgers, number one is that he just doesn't move as well as he used to. I shouldn't say he can't move well anymore, because you can see against the Denver Broncos, he still made some plays, but there were moments where, he evades pressure and he can't like outrun a defensive lineman, so he just kind of checks it down. And I remember saying 7 years ago, he's breaking the pocket, he's throwing a strike 20 yards down the field. He's still as smart as he's ever been. He still makes great pre-snap adjustments at the line of scrimmage. He'll make great post-snap adjustments based on what he sees. The arm is, I think his arms are probably like 90% of what it used to be. There's a throw here or there where he misses it, and you say, he used to be able to hit that one. I think right now he's, a quality starting quarterback. And look, compared with what we've had with the Jets in the past, I mean, that makes him look like MVP Rodgers.
No more Zach Wilson. He can't hurt you.
Right. If you're contrasting like Zach Wilson or, Sam Darnold while he was with the Jets, I mean, it's quite a contrast. Yeah. But this is not the MVP, Hall of Fame version of Rodgers. It's more, I think, a competent starting quarterback at this point.
Okay, competent starting quarterback. So then how have things been around him? Like, okay, we all saw that Jets-Broncos game and how the offense kind of fell apart, but the Broncos defense is good. So outside of that game, which I don't want to overreact to, how has the rest of that offense been? I think I'm seeing, Alan Lazard is getting quite a lot of run, and how's the pass protection been and all that? Like, how are things around Rodgers? Is it building him up enough where that competent starting quarterback is, enough to make this team a real threat?
So, like any great declining player, there's always like that spark that there's always like that lingering greatness that's in him. You saw that lingering greatness week 3 on Thursday night against the Patriots. Like that was like the one time all year he's looked like vintage Aaron Rodgers. And you see there are individual plays where he looks like that guy in Green Bay, but they don't happen as frequently as they used to. If you're talking about the infrastructure around him, there's been a lot of inconsistency. And I think this is part of the issue, is that, Green Bay Aaron Rodgers, it didn't matter what was around him. He was going to be great and the offense was going to thrive. This version of Aaron Rodgers is still a good quarterback, but he needs the pieces around him to work. Against Denver, the offensive line had a very rough game. He took 5 sacks. He was hit 14 times, and the Jets did not put the ball in the end zone. The receiving group, it's been a struggle. Garrett Wilson started his career with back-to-back 1,100-yard seasons. It has been slow going. There have been moments where he and Rodgers have not been on the same page. You mentioned Lazard is is producing numbers this year, which is a welcome sign for Jets fans because he looked like one of the biggest free agent busts of all time last year, playing with Zach Wilson. Lazard's the receiver.
Gotta have that chemistry.
Yeah, he's got chemistry with, and there was one play in the last late in the fourth quarter against Denver where Rodgers was under pressure and he threw a ball to Garrett Wilson, and Wilson's route was a vertical route, and I think Rodgers was expecting Wilson to adjust his route and just kind of turn around where he was and catch the ball, and Wilson didn't. And on CBS, Charles Davis, the analyst, said Allen Lazard, he looks back at Rodgers because he knows his route could change based on what's happening with Rodgers during the play. So it's an adjustment period. The offensive line's been inconsistent. The receiving group's been inconsistent. One thing that's notable about Rodgers is that he's getting the ball out quicker than he has typically at earlier points in his career. And I think part of that's, he's older, he's 40. He doesn't like, not the quarterbacks ever like taking hits, but he clearly doesn't like taking hits. He was a little banged up by the end of the game against Denver. He took a big hit late in the fourth quarter, and he was clearly hobbling by that point. Again, the mobility is just not what it used to be. It's still, he can still extend plays, but not to the extent he used to. So a lot of this is get the ball out quickly into the hands of your receivers. And given the chemistry issues, given frankly the fact that Jets don't have a lot of receivers who are suited stylistically to this type of play, it's been very inconsistent to this point. And now Devontae Adams is seeking a trade, and now.
Well, yeah, that is going on, huh? I doubt that resolves before this week, though.
Right.
So, like, for Vikings fans, it's just kind of funny to watch all the old Packers get together and, get like second place in the AFC East. But I do want to talk about that Jets defense because it feels like that's the thing keeping the Jets in these games. If the offense does end up, getting figured out, if the offense can't get the ball rolling, that Jets defense, which it feels like for a decade now has been the strength of the Jets, from up front to Sauce Gardner and, players on the inside. I'm even seeing Chaz Surratt get run, man. Whoa, what's up with that?
I think two of the three levels of the Jets defense are very good right now. The linebackers, even without CJ Mosley, who's missed the last couple of games, as you mentioned, Chaz Surratt stepping up and making a few plays. Quincy Williams was the first team All-Pro last year.
We have a weird relationship with him. So the day that he got drafted, it's now come out, was the day that like Mike Zimmer and Rick Spielman, head coach and GM, like their falling out like started on that draft day, like because of that pick, and then he got cut the next season as a third-round pick. So we're seeing him do well is a little bit like, whoa.
we have a lot of guys like that with the Jets we could probably talk about.
Yeah, well, one of them was playing quarterback in Minnesota, yeah. But
yes, the linebackers are good though. Surratt's made a few plays. He's kind of like the third linebacker with Mosley out. The top two guys are Quincy Williams, who was actually Quinnen Williams' brother. I'm sure you've heard of Quinnen Williams. His brother plays with the Jets also. He was a waiver wire pickup back in 2021 and has blossomed into, he was a first team All-Pro last year. Real sideline to sideline guy, big hitter. Really an incredible story. Also, Jamian Sherwood, a converted college safety who the Jets drafted day 3, 2021, stepped into the starting lineup with Mosley out, played well. Jets have very good corners. Sauce Gardner, one of the top corners in the league. DJ Reed, who I think on a lot of teams would be the number one corner. Undersized guy, but really, really athletic, moves very well. And then Michael Carter II, who just got a contract extension, who has kind of blossomed into one of the top slot corners in the league. The issue this year, people are used to the Jets having a really good defensive line. This defensive line's been a problem. I've been talking about it.
Really? Yeah, I'm super used to that. So that's
because the Jets have been so good on the defensive line. I mentioned this on yesterday's show on Locked On Jets. Is that you get used to something being so good for a while that it feels unusual when it's not a strength. Quinnen Williams is
like the Vikings being bad at running back for the first time in like 20 years with the Alexander Madison years. But we're back. We're back.
And it's Quinnen Williams is not having a great season. But two of the guys who are supposed to be the top 3 defensive ends are not with the team right now. Hassan Reddick's holding out, and Jermaine Johnson suffered the season-ending injury, and it's been a struggle to get a pass rush. Will McDonald, first-round pick from a year ago, is really the only defensive end who can get to the quarterback consistently. But that leaves the Jets vulnerable because McDonald is like 235, 240. He gets pushed around in the run game, and the Jets have been pushed around in the run game a lot this year. 2 of their 4 games, they've allowed opposing running backs to average 5 yards per carry, and I think that's a concern going into this one, is that this Jets run defense has been shaky. Even when they've played well, I think the defensive line's been pushed around. It's been Quincy Williams and the linebackers stepping, filling gaps when guys get pushed out of the way. So this defensive line, I have some pretty big concerns about it, Luke.
I need to know how you think this Hassan Reddick thing ends. This has no bearing on this game, but I'm curious. I have to know.
I think that there are one of two likely solutions. I think it's difficult for the Jets to trade him because it's just you can't save face if you trade a 3 for him and then get like a 5 or a 6 back. So I think there are two possible outcomes. I think the first is that Reddick comes back. I think it's week 10, week 11. I think he has to play 6 games or he loses his free agent status. So I think he'll probably come back at that point. Just play whatever 6 games needs to get to free agency. The second option would be maybe the Jets trade him. And then the pick they get, they flip as part of a trade for Devontae Adams because that helps you save face. You say, "Oh, we traded him for Devontae Adams." So
that stuff could happen like now,
right? So my prediction is like one of those two things happens.
Very interesting. All right, John. When we come back, we'll flip this around, and you can ask me whatever it is that you want to know, whatever questions burn deep in your heart about the Minnesota Vikings. Today's Crossover Thursday episode is brought to you by Gametime, the best place to find last-minute tickets. John, I don't know about you, but I have used Gametime to get all of my tickets this year. I'm all set up for a couple of games that I'm going to end up going to, Vikings games. And boy, I tried to use their Gametime guarantee where they will refund you, or they'll give you 110% credit if you find the same tickets, same section or row somewhere else at a lower price. They'll credit you 110% of the difference. I tried to use that, couldn't do it. Oh my goodness, the prices are so much better. And I even had the all-in pricing toggled, which is the button that you can press, which shows you exactly what you will pay at checkout. No surprise fees, no funny business at checkout. They're showing you what you will actually pay. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off of your first purchase. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off of your first purchase. What time is it? Gametime.
All right, week 5 action here in the NFL. Jets and Vikings will play Sunday morning in London. Luke, the Jets played week 3 Thursday night, and I have a similar view to the Sunday morning games as I do the Thursday night games. It's either the best or the worst because either you're in the clubhouse before like the afternoon game starts with a win and you can just enjoy it, or you walk before everybody else plays. It's the most miserable thing in the world.
Yeah, red zone after a win is phenomenal. And then if you lost and you're mad and you don't even want to watch it, it's like, what a waste.
All right, well, Luke, I think what Jets fans want to know is the quarterback of the Minnesota Vikings. Off to a great start this year. And, Sam Darnold, former Jet, surprising everybody. And I think he surprised the Vikings because the Vikings traded up for J.J. McCarthy. I think
the only people they didn't surprise was the Vikings, that he didn't surprise. So they knew what they had in Sam Darnold, and whether or not McCarthy was hurt, Darnold would have been playing now. They were pretty clear about that McCarthy was on this developmental track and that, Darnold's the bridge QB and he's going to start the first few weeks and all that, playing the whole season now. At this point, we would have probably been talking about Darnold's playing well, but when's McCarthy getting in? But now he's hurt, so it's moot. But here's the thing, and I'm sure you guys are super curious. He grew up. He's 27. He's older. He's a little bit wiser. He's seen a little bit of battle. When he was in New York, and he talks about this openly now, he thought he had to eat the whole thing in one bite. He thought he had to carry the whole load. And that would mean that if he threw a bad interception, he felt like it was on him personally to make up for it. And then he'd force one, and he'd throw another bad interception. That he's grown out of. And San Francisco helped a lot with that. He talks about his time with Kyle Shanahan and being with the 49ers and kind of seeing Brock Purdy, who, always never tried to do too much, always did exactly enough. Whether it was, he needed to escape the pocket and find a check down and it was just 4 yards and he was happy with that. It was like, I don't need to force this. And seeing how Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy interacted and what Shanahan liked that he did and what he didn't like that he did, and going, I think just being a backup, like a true backup, not in a competition, not, constantly in this, either you're the hero or we're waiting on you to be the hero because Baker Mayfield's not doing it. Just being a true backup and being able to reflect on everything that he learned over 5 years of struggling. He kind of grew up a little bit. And now he's this more conservative Darnold. Look, there's still bozo plays, okay? There's still some stuff that make you scratch your head and go, oh my God, what are you doing? Holy crap, pick your brain up off the ground and put it back in your head. But it's less. And when it does happen, it doesn't spiral. It doesn't become, 5 turnover worthy plays and a total disaster. No, he picks himself back up and he'll go execute a concept in rhythm again. The accuracy is there, the rhythm and timing is there, the talent is there that you guys are so familiar with that got him drafted 3rd overall. But it's a bit of an older, wiser, learned, we've been around the block a little bit, Sam Darnold.
Well, it's funny what you said at the start is that, he felt like the weight of the world on his shoulder was on his shoulder because it was. Because if he made a mistake,
the whole franchise.
Because they put him, the Jets have done this a lot with these young quarterbacks. Is like they throw these kids who are like just learning how to play the game, who don't really know what they're doing, trying to keep their head above water, and throw them in these situations where they have to be the savior because there's no talent around them. There's no coach. I mean, the Jets brought in Adam Gase to like try and develop him. I mean, and the Jets like literally the reason they brought in Adam Gase and said Adam Gase is the best coach to develop Sam Darnold. It was just the craziest thing in the world. It's funny.
It was the Peyton Manning guy, right?
Yeah, right. And that could be
have another 5-hour energy, buddy.
I think you hit the nail on the head with going to San Francisco because we've seen this before with the Jets. Geno Smith, got off to a really rough start. Very similar circumstances where he's on this team with no talent, didn't really know how to play. And I always said, I think the best thing that ever happened to Geno Smith was just kind of disappearing for a little bit. He went and bounced around. He was the Giants backup. He was the Chargers backup. He had a couple of years behind Russell Wilson, and there was no spotlight on him. He was out of the glare. He wasn't getting criticized the way he was in New York. He could just kind of learn how to play the game from the practice field. And now he emerges, and suddenly you have a good quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're happy with him, but here's the deal. It's still J.J. McCarthy's team moving forward. Everybody's been very clear about that, and Sam Darnold knows. Like, they've been clear with him about that. So he's playing for somebody else's money right now, and he's earning it.
How about the defense? I mean, I know the defense. It looks like the Vikings are off to a phenomenal start on that side of the ball. Who are the key players there?
Yeah, well, we don't have anybody like Sauce. So we're not doing like the man coverage stuff that I know the Jets like to do. But honestly, the superstar is Brian Flores. It's a lot of the scheme, and it's a lot of asking guys exactly what to do, no more, no less. So this has worked out very well. Their run defense has been really fantastic, with more performance than you would think out of a guy like Jonathan Bullard or Jerry Tillery. Harrison Phillips is still Harrison Phillips. He's always been a really good nose tackle. But guys like Blake Cashman coming off of the Texans is a very good player. And guys like Stephon Gilmore, age 33. And, Shaq Griffin from the Seahawks coming off of a bit of a sort of down moment in his career, kind of looks like he's past his peak. So these corners that look like they're past their peak. But maybe the guy that I'm always most excited to tell people about is 44, Josh Metellus. He lines up all over the field. He lines up at off ball, will linebacker. He'll line up on the edge. He's listed as a safety, but he plays more of like a safety nickel kind of hybrid role. And he can fit the run. He can blitz. Sometimes he'll mug the A gap. He'll back off into a middle third zone. And that's what Brian Flores does. It's all confusing pre-snap. You can't trust the pre-snap look at all. He'll show cover 0 and back off into Tampa 2. Like often. Like that's a base look for the Vikings is showing cover 0, lining 8 guys up against the line of scrimmage, and then backing people off into 2 high and like Tampa 2, like soft zone. And so, you'll get quarterbacks to check into their blitz beaters, and then they're running those blitz beaters against cover 2, and you get corners that rally and tackle. So it's been very difficult for young quarterbacks in particular. For Aaron Rodgers, with all the experience he has against the Vikings when it was Mike Zimmer, who also disguised things a lot, and he always had a lot of respect for that. But he had the tools to kind of figure it out, sort it out post-snap. But I think that chess match is going to be one of the biggest things in this game.
Yeah, you heard it. You mentioned a name that's familiar to Jets fans, Blake Cashman, who was originally a Jets draft pick. And
that's right.
That name pains me because I like that pick, and I spent years saying I think Blake Cashman's got potential. He could never stay on the field. He just got he got injured every other game, and I finally gave up on him after years of saying, guys, I think he's got potential. And then after I finally give up on him, he goes to Houston and has a great year, and then ends up getting a contract from the Vikings.
It's how it goes. It's a physical game. Sometimes you get hurt a little bit, and all you need is kind of a change of scenery where you don't have that baggage, where you don't have that stink of this guy's always hurt and guys that are frustrated with you. Just get to a bunch of fresh people that say, hey, we know what you can do, and here you go. And a fresh outlook can be important. And maybe one of the most important things will be whether or not the Jets can get that run game going. against a Vikings run defense that will probably be with Ivan Pace again. Ivan Pace has been hurt a couple weeks now, but he has been eyeing this game for a return. And maybe that will be one of the matchups, but there's a lot of matchup stuff in this game that I think bears mentioning, including the probably the big blockbuster that the broadcast will focus on that we haven't gotten into at all yet. So that'll be next. Today's crossover episode is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, the Vikings, or at least last I looked at FanDuel, the Vikings are favored by 2.5 in this one. So if you think that the Vikings can win by more than that, or if you think the Jets will lose by less than that, or even win outright, you can take their money line. You can go to FanDuel.com, drop $5 on that, or whatever it is you think will happen in this game, or rest of season, or elsewhere in the world of sports. WNBA playoffs going strong right now. Whatever it is, you can grab that at FanDuel for $5. You put $5 on anything, whatever your first $5 bet is. FanDuel will give you $200 in bonus bets to get you started, whether that bet wins or loses. So put $5 on anything, get $200 back just for participating, just for coming and hanging out with FanDuel.com. That is America's #1 sportsbook. Moving on here with the crossover Thursday episode. This is where if we wanted to predict the game, you can go ahead. I don't really like doing score predictions. I think they kind of are just arbitrary numbers more often than not. But I like to predict what I think this game will come down to. And we would be remiss if we didn't talk about the guy who very famously is not Garrett Wilson, and that is Justin Jefferson. I'm sure Jets fans heard about that. If you saw that quote, that was when the Vikings were about to play the 49ers and the Jets played the 49ers week 1. Somebody asked him about hey, does it help you to watch how they played the Jets to prepare? And he was like, yeah, of course. But also, they played the Jets differently. People play me differently than they play other receivers. And that was the I'm not Garrett Wilson, because Garrett Wilson doesn't get doubled every single time all day long. I don't think, right? Or maybe he doesn't. That's why Allen Lazard is popping off. But what the Jets like to do is man up, because they got the dudes to do it. Because they've got, in my opinion, the best corner in the league. Maybe Pat Surtain. I'll entertain that, but those are the two for me. And will they man that guy up on Justin Jefferson?
Yeah, throughout the entire offseason, the Jets have talked about how Sauce Gardner, they were going to use him to shadow the other team's best receiver more frequently. And this is the kind of game you do it for. The Jets in the past under Robert Saleh, and this goes back to 2021 before they had Sauce Gardner, have not done it a whole lot. It was essentially, and even, for Sauce Gardner's first 2 years, he'd go to the left side, DJ Reed would go to the right side. And part of it is, they have a lot of trust in DJ Reed, who's been an excellent free agent signing from Seattle. They got him a couple of years ago. But this is the kind of game where you do it. And I think for the Jets, I think this is one of the keys to the game, is that they should make sure Sauce Gardner is following Justin Jefferson wherever he goes in this one, because that's going to be Justin Jefferson's a tough matchup. I think as much as you may trust DJ Reed, this is the kind of game you get Sauce. This is the kind of game you drafted Sauce Gardner for, because you're going to need everything at your disposal to slow this guy down, especially the way this Vikings passing game is functioning at this point and how integral he is to it.
Yeah, and DJ Reed, also one of the best CB2s in the game, I think. I think that secondary is the thing about the Jets that's scariest, is that if those guys can be like clamps on the outside, and you're playing 9-on-9 or even 10-on-10 if you want DJ Reed to be part of his own thing, that's so much harder as an offense to move the ball. If you could just take that one bit of entropy out, especially if you can get the best player in the game neutralized with your best player. But here's the thing. Nobody's done it. Nobody has done it. I don't remember what the Jets did last time. I'm actually trying to look that up on Next Gen Stats right now, how the Jets approached it last time. But Sauce was a rookie, so it's probably different. But the last team, well, now the team that tried it was the Texans. They tried to put Derek Stingley on him, the other corner that went above Sauce. Didn't go great. 34-7. Went poorly. And they did try to man him up for a little bit. They started zoning off later in the game when things got out of hand. But other than that, you got to go back 2 years to Marshawn Lattimore. Last time the Vikings were in London, they tried to man him up. And it's Marshawn Lattimore. That's a good corner. Totally smoked. Otherwise, everybody's been too high. Everybody's been bracketing, doubling, trying to get horizontal brackets, diagonal brackets, whatever their coverage likes to do. They're picking out, where is 18? We got to get 2 on him. If the Jets have the courage and Sauce has the juice, I think this might be the only team in the league. Like, if the Jets can't do it, nobody can do it.
And I think the Jets have to try and do it because, as I mentioned, they've had a lot of issues against the run, and I think that they're going to have to bring that extra safety down to try and help on Aaron Jones, who I know is off to an outstanding start this season. I mean, I think, look, Justin Jefferson's the best receiver in the NFL. I'd be lying to you if I said that matchup isn't terrifying for the Jets, but when you have Sauce Gardner and you have this kind of run defense, and you look at the way the Vikings are running the football, the Jets have to send extra resources to try and stop the run game. And I don't know. Like, I don't know. I don't know how Sauce Gardner is going to hold up against Jefferson. Jefferson might be the one receiver who can beat him, but I think based on the way this Jets team is built, their strengths and weaknesses, this is what you have to do. I mean, this is why you have Sauce Gardner, because you don't have a great defensive line right now. So you have a great corner. You have to lean on the great corner.
Yeah, so just looking at it at Next Gen Stats from the last game, they played sides, which I'm going to guess the Jets like to do a lot, where Sauce is just on the defense left, DJ Reed on the defense right, and you say, come at me, whoever you're going to come at me with. We're not scared of your matchups because we trust both of these guys. So you might not get a lot of Jefferson on Sauce if that's the thing you do. You might put him on DJ Reed and say, let's take this matchup away, unless you want to have him actually shadow, which would be different. But also, again, Sauce was a rookie 2 years ago, and he's a superstar bona fide now. This isn't his first year anymore, so that could be something. But what do you think this game is going to come down to? What's your X factor here?
I think that the Jets need to force turnovers in this game. This offense is still very much working things out, and I think that this Minnesota defense is a tough matchup. And I think there are some things the Jets can do offensively. I think you need to see more Braylon Allen for the Jets on offense. And your listeners, if they're college football fans, may recognize him because Braylon Allen's from Big Ten country, played at Wisconsin.
Sure.
Really very promising rookie. And Breece Hall, who I think is a phenomenal young back, just in a slump right now. I also think Braylon Allen might be stylistically better for this Vikings defense because Breece Hall is kind of like a slasher. He looks for his hole, waits for things to develop. And I think against this Vikings defense, you just need a guy who's going to move forward, be more of a north and south runner. That's where Braylon Allen is. But I think this Jets offense is still trying to sort things out, and I think they need to force turnovers. My experience with Sam is obviously different from yours. We know that Sam.
This is how it goes. So the Vikings, I think they're like tied for third in the league in takeaways, and they're second in the league in giveaways. So there've been wild games with a lot of. They've won or tied the turnover battle. It's been balanced, but it's always been like 2-2, 3-4. Like they are definitely still not protecting the ball as well as you would want them to. But the defense is forcing turnovers as well. So the turnover battle is a pretty good key to this one. There's this stat that's very famous in the Vikings world now, that the Vikings under Kevin O'Connell are 21-0 when they tie or lead the turnover battle. As long as they don't lose the turnover battle, they don't lose the game. But it is Sam Darnold. It's still Sam Darnold, okay? It's not a totally different guy. It's still a guy He's in there. He's a little bit more repressed, okay? He's a little bit more of a childhood memory, but he's in there.
Maybe seeing the green and white will bring it out of him.
Yeah, well, the first game was at MetLife against the Giants, so you kind of thought maybe bad memories would come, but no, he played great in that game. But we'll see what happens in London. What else do you think this game comes down to?
I think you can always look to special teams. Jets lost their game. Look, I'm not saying the Jets lost this game because of special teams, but Greg Zuerlein did miss a field goal. Zuerlein's been a little shaky. He made 3 field goals, but a bunch of them were ones he just snuck through. Jets special teams has historically been a big positive for the team. This year, it's been a little bit more up and down. They haven't gotten big results from their return game. I think whenever you're talking about a game that could be tight, special teams could make a difference. It did make. I don't want to blame it on Zuerlein because the Jets messed up so many other things last week. But I think you always look to the special teams battle because that could end up swinging the game one way or another.
Special teams make special teams. For me, I also want to focus on Will McDonald. If that is truly the Jets' focused pass rusher, and I'm going to guess that if you looked at the pass rushes, you're going to see him on a lot of one-on-ones, trying to get his matchups, right? Moving him around. Or do they move him around? Do you know? Or do they just let him kind of rush off the same side against the same guy all day?
I think Jets guys line up all over the place.
Okay.
But
Like Saleh likes to move him around a little bit. Because
Yeah.
when he was in San Francisco, you would just Nick Bosa would just be on a guy. But I don't know. Two schools of thought where sometimes you want him to be able to play the long game and go up against the same tackle all day and set him up and bring up a diversion at the right time and kind of play this long battle against a guy. And then sometimes you just want to move him around and say, but what if you rush against the guard? But the Vikings have had bookend tackles all year that have been playing phenomenal football. Christian Darrisaw and Brian O'Neill. And they've been up against quite the gauntlet. Nick Bosa, Danielle Hunter, Will Anderson, Rashawn Gary handed him probably his worst game in a while, at least of the season. So unless they want to try to get Will Anderson inside, Will McDonald inside, that's going to be, I think, a difficult matchup and one that makes me feel pretty good about the Vikings here. I think that I see why the Vikings are favorite, but also, they're 4-0. They're white hot, and the Jets are coming off this super ugly loss. So I get why the vibes are the way they are. Do you have any, whether it's a score prediction or a vibes prediction, do you have anything to round this thing out with?
I think the Jets need to play at a much higher level than they have in the past 4 weeks. They played very well in the Thursday night game, week 3 against New England, but this team's 2-2. This team, in many ways, is lucky to not be 1-3 because they did not play well week 2 against Tennessee. And when you started the season, expectations were very high for this team. All around New York, there was talk. Is this team going to contend for a Super Bowl? Week 1, they play they play the team that almost won the Super Bowl last year. They don't look like they belong on the same field. Week 2, they play a Tennessee team that's frankly not very good, and it was a very touch and go game. New England, they did look like a very good team, but last week that was a game most people penciled in as a win before it started. So I think it was a tough matchup for the Jets, and I think that the Jets need to play at a much higher level because even though they got that win week 2, that was not if they play that way if they play the way they did in their week 2 win against Tennessee against Minnesota this Sunday, they're going to get blown out. If they play the way they did against the 49ers week 1, they're going to get blown out. If they play the way they did against Denver week 4, they're going to get blown out. This team has not, for the most part, looked anything close to a Super Bowl contender, and now they're going up against the team the hottest start in the league. So what I'd say is that I think the Jets can win. Some of it might be, the trip to London's always a bit of an X factor. How do teams respond?
It's an equalizer, yeah.
Sam, there's going to be the question, can Sam keep it up? Does Sam have an off game? That could be an equalizer. But I just think that if this Jets team doesn't play at a higher level, they're not going to win this game.
You're getting that out of Aaron Rodgers, 100%. Aaron Rodgers is coming up for this. He's had this one circled. I just know it. From Purple Crush and all the old days and Vikings fans and what they've said to him over the years, especially when he got injured that one year and the way that a lot of Vikings fans celebrated that, which, I think you get that in any rivalry. But I know that Rodgers really has it out for the Vikings in particular. I know you're getting everything you can out of him for this one. Should be a fun game in London, 9:30 Eastern, I believe, 8:30 Central, 6:30 for this guy on the West Coast. So I will be enjoying a cup of coffee and hopefully an enjoyable Vikings game. No offense to you, John. Thank you so much for hanging out for Crossover Thursday. Next up, go check out Locked On NFL, whether you want a shot of espresso in the morning or something relaxing in the evening. They got you covered with 2 shows a day. See you all next time. Thanks for hanging out.